YouTube! Look at all my pretty things! Let's talk EDC Philosophy. Alright, so once upon a time I worked in the woods. I worked in fields building fences in the trees, cutting them down, building new habitat, planting trees, building structures of woody debris to encourage salmon. I was out there doing just such a wide array of jobs. And so I needed to have a minimum of things on my person that allowed me to succeed when encountering a wide array of jobs. And it typically looked like this. A dedicated pocket knife, one blade, in and out it would go on a regular basis, cutting things, and then a multi-tool on a sheath on my belt. That was how I rolled. It could be this multi-tool, sometimes it would be this multi-tool, sometimes it would be a different pocket knife. It depended on the day. Like for instance, if I knew I was going to do a fencing project, I carried this. The bigger, tougher pliers allowed me to cut a variety of fencing wires and twist and pull, and the pliers were the main feature that made this carried. But in general, this was lighter and more versatile with a different tool loadout in it, so I'd carry this most of the time. And here, I think I touched on the theme of the everyday carry philosophy, the philosophy of use. What kind of person are you? What kind of things are you doing, and what do you need? What is your reason for carrying something at all? So you'll notice that, especially now, in terms of EDC options, this is what I have now. First off, you'll hear me refer to tools that I don't have, but there may be videos of, because one of the ways I finance doing these things is selling old things. So this is what I have now. You'll also see Super Victorinox fanboy at this point, which is true, and I'll explain why. So you got to think about who you are, what you need it for, and what you're going to do with it. And so here we get down to it. So first off, just the dedicated pocket knife. If you were to ask, Pat, if I were to carry one type of thing and it only had one tool, what should it be? I would say a pocket knife of some kind. Probably going to be your most used EDC tool, unless you have a different lifestyle. But just a pocket knife in general tends to be one of the most used things in your pocket. And it's kind of one of those, every gentleman should carry a cutting tool of some kind. They come in handy. And it could be anything. Take your pick. But a knife would be it. But then the next question is, should it be just a knife? Can it be just a knife? Well, it can be, but why limit yourself? You know what I'm saying? And again, it's what do you come down to? So once upon a time, right, and I'm in the woods, I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I had to have a need for any given day. I would encounter any kind of challenge that would require a tool. I would carry something like this. A multi-tool on my hip, a dedicated knife in my pocket, and that allowed me to be versatile when encountering a variety of challenges. But then I had a son. I became a stay-at-home dad. I worked part-time in a bookstore. Carrying this much became inconvenient. It made people look at me funny because, and the reality is, in a bookstore, it's weird to have that much on you. Why do you need that much? And it didn't change that I needed stuff. I'd be opening boxes. There'd be a screw loose somewhere. But it just changed how I approached what I carried. And it went from this type of setup to maybe just this in my pocket. It was huge, it was terrible. That just in my pocket. Still not easy to dig and pull out. I turned to the Leatherman Skeletool CX. Hands down, for a general guy in a general job in a general city, the Leatherman Skeletool CX is the best, most useful multi-tool. And the reason is, it's the easiest to carry. It's got pliers, screwdrivers, a knife, and I found it being the most used tool I had because it was the most available tool I had. It took up as much space as any other pocket knife, plus all the extras. But again, my circumstances changed, so my EDC changed. This was too much. I ended up looking in a realm like this. you'll be able to check out my video of the one-handed trekker non-serrated here. But I found myself realizing that in any given scenario on any day, this was all I ever needed, and this was way overkill. And so here we go. Here we come down to your philosophy, the philosophy of use. What kind of person are you? What kind of things do you do? What kind of tool do you need? And what are the kind of people you're around? If you are, say, a electrician or a lineman or a construction worker or a forest service, whatever, you have one of those more intense jobs, something like this, not only do people see you walking around dirty doing hardcore stuff and think, oh, that guy should have that stuff, but it's also you just need it. But conversely, if you're a barista or a delivery man, working for UPS, do you need all this loadout? Probably not. Something like that's probably all you need. Or even, you're working in the bookstore, close with people, you may want to consider something like this. It's small. It's nondescript. You're not using it all the time, so you don't need instantaneous access. This guy, clipped to my pocket, I can grab in an instant, have it out, cut, put it away, we're done. This guy, I have to dig a little bit. I have to rummage, I have to pull it out, I have to find the nail nick, and I have to cut, I have to put it back. This takes more time. It's less convenient than this. So again, convenience. Tool loadout. The people around you, working in the bookstore, constantly flipping out a big knife was weird. And first off, why? I was in a bookstore. This on my hip was weird. If a lady needed to figure out where to find Nora Roberts' latest novel, I didn't need that. I never needed that. And so I turned to this or this, where it was something that rode deeper in my pocket, that never bothered people, that also was there when I needed it, but I also needed it less. So its speedy convenience was less of a requirement, and its versatility was. Now, one of the other reasons people would prefer to carry, say, a dedicated pocket knife versus a knife multi-tool is, if you were to compare these guys, the centering of the blade makes a difference. A lot of people, if you're just using the knife every once in a while, having it off-center doesn't make any difference at all. If you're using it constantly, having it centered really does make a difference. It actually changes how you use it and how easy it is to use, and so that's a thing to consider. Centered, not centered. The thing I love about the one-hand trekker is it is centered. That makes it a little easier and more comfortable to use. And on top of that, I have a bunch of extra shit on here. It makes it more versatile. I can use it for things other than cutting. Same here. I got the knife. I got a screwdriver. I got a hook knife. This is useful when I'm gardening, the harvester. I got my awl. I got my saw. You know what I'm saying? This is a thing that serves more than one purpose, takes up less space, is lighter, and is more nondescript. And for my lifestyle now, as opposed to 5 years ago when I was in the woods wearing boots, cutting down trees and shit, that makes a difference. If I were back in that lifestyle, you would not see me carrying this. I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. I would be carrying this because I needed that. And so this video is about the philosophy of use. The what do you carry and why do you carry it? What do you need and why do you need it? I find myself very often with this in my pocket and this strapped or looped through the shoulder strap of my EDC bag. So it'll sit right here. Let me just loop it back on. I'm going to put it back on anyway. So that goes and sits right there, and boom. And this is what I carry. This is available. If I need it, I go find it. There it is. But I take my bag off, it stays with my bag. I probably don't need it. This is all I need, or this is all I need. And so consider those. If you're really the kind of person that sometimes uses their knife, sometimes needs other stuff, really does need to worry about the comfort of the people around you, then I think it's really worth considering things like the any kind of Swiss Army knife or the Leatherman Skeletool. Hands down the most useful multi-tool out there because it clips in, takes as much space as this, and it's got a variety of options. It was, for me, my most used multi-tool because it was the most easy to use. It was so accessible with that pocket clip and its size, and with the pliers and the screwdrivers and the knife, it was so accessible. Consider those things. How heavy do you need it to be? How light do you need it to be? What tools do you need it to have? If it's only going to take up this much space, can you get more out of that space? Should you? And those are the things to consider. For my part, the place I'm in with my job and my life now, a dedicated pocket knife doesn't make any sense. It's less useful than this is, just because I know I need these other tools from time to time. I want to have them there, and if it allows me to carry less overall to have this. So hopefully that was helpful to all you guys out there to think about the philosophy of use of your EDC blade. And just, as you are geeking out on gear and watching YouTube and reading and listening to reviews, ask yourself, what do I actually need? What do I actually need to perform? What service do I need my tool to provide for me? And that should really be your guiding force in deciding what you get and how you get it and what you use it for and all that other stuff, right? So there you go. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that was useful. Hopefully you found this